Hey nerds, just Jamie here with another review episode of Nerd Bomber vs. Movies, the show where two movies fight and we pick a winner. Except for there's no we, and like I said, there's not two movies today because this is a review episode. The movie that I will be reviewing that I just recently saw is Prey. It is a sequel in the Predator film franchise. It was produced by 20th Century Studios, and it is being distributed by Hulu here in the United States and Disney Plus internationally. Directing Prey, we have Dan Trachtenberg. He's most known for 10 Cloverfield Lane. He wrote the movie, that is, along with Patrick Asen. Asen is most known for Wayward Pines and Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. The cast includes Amber Midthunder as Naru, who wants to be a hunter for the tribe that she's a part of. She's most known for Legion and the show Roswell, New Mexico. She's joined by Dane DeLiegro as the Predator. DeLiegro is a former basketball player, and he's known for doing monster work and things like The Walking Dead and American Horror Stories. Other indigenous cast members that make up the rest of the Comanche tribe that is the central point of most of the story. They are played by Dakota Beavers, Michelle Thrush, Julian Black Antelope, and Stormy Kipp. Bennett Taylor plays a Frenchman named Raphael Adlini, who actually connects to another Predator film, and I won't give too much about that away. If you know the Predator film series and you watch the movie, you'll understand how he connects to some of the other films when you watch it. All right, so the basic idea of the movie: Predator comes down to Earth. It takes place in the 1700s, early 1800s, still the pioneering days, and so you have a little bit of a time capsule. It's a period piece, essentially. It's Predator in a period film, focused mostly on an indigenous character, an indigenous tribe, and some French colonials in the mix. So there's a lot going on, but even though there's a lot going on, the film has a pretty simple narrative because it's mostly about the Predator and the character Naru, and the plot keeps a lot of momentum. So it presents these different scenarios with these different characters and these different settings, but it does so in a very simple way that keeps the plot moving forward. All of these scenarios, by the way, are very well performed. The people playing the French colonials and settlers, pioneers, the performers playing the Comanche tribe members, the physical performance of DeLiegro in the Predator costume, all of these performances are good across the board. I was actually pretty impressed with them. Another thing is that the final fight with Naru versus the Predator can potentially be a subject of some negative thoughts because you get into sort of like the Mary Sue conversations. But I think that those are nonsense because throughout the movie, this Predator gets its ass kicked maybe more than any other Predator in any other movie. This Predator fights a bear hand-to-hand and wins, but it is injured. You see the bright green blood spurting. This Predator gets in a fight with, a couple dozen Frenchmen, and it wins handily, but there are injuries involved. This Predator gets in a fight with, several members of the Comanche tribe, members that are in the movie. Again, wins the fight, but gets injured, stabbed, a lot of blood spurting. So by the time Naru faces down the Predator at the end, spoiler alert, she wins. I think it's very reasonable because this Predator has taken a lot of hits throughout the course of the movie. But yeah, so everybody did a really good job here, and also. Well, it brings me to the cons a little bit. The Predator was redesigned slightly. So one of the cons of the movie is that the face and the head look different. It didn't bother me too much, but this is one of the criticisms of the movie that I understood more, that I empathize with more, because there's no real reason to change the whole head and face design. I mean, you could argue that it's a subspecies of Predator. Humans look different from one another, so you can make that justification. I think it was kind of unnecessary to change that design, but I don't think it takes away from the plot or the narrative or the character of the Predator itself, because even though those changes are there, the physicality of the Predator is still very good and reminds me more of that original Predator from the first movie and maybe the second one as well. In a lot of the Alien versus Predators kind of, spin-off movies, the Predators were really beefed up to these big hulking figures, and I like a leaner Predator. I like an 8-foot tall, still very intimidating, still very physically imposing Predator, but one that's a little bit leaner, a little bit more athletic looking, and this kind of reminds me of that kind of design physically. So even though the head and face look different, the overall visual and design of the Predator, I thought was gets a big thumbs up for me. The only other real con that I find in the movie is that they do depend on CGI for some of the animal shots. There's some deer stuff, and there's a bear, and there's some mountain lion stuff or cougar. To me, that comes up a little short. The budget for the movie was $65 million, and it's hard to stretch, I think, $65 million into several extended special effects sequences, trying to pull off photorealistic animals. And it comes up a little bit short. Again, for me, that's a con, but for me, it doesn't take me out of the film. I thought the film was still very enjoyable, and I thought those scenes were still effective, because those scenes are not necessarily about the lion or the bear, or even the deer. Those scenes are about the other characters or the predator itself and how they handle the situations that involve these other elements. So I thought that they don't harm the narrative or the plot. Visually, they just come up a little bit short. But other than those visual, everything else looks great. Again, the Predator head and face design, you might not like that so much. I'm not a huge fan, but the overall Predator aesthetic, head to toe, I think looks really good. The special effects for the Predator, invisibility cloak, his augmented vision special effects through the mask, and just also the costume design, the cinematography, they're in a different kind of place, sort of the American West. So it's a little bit different because you have, the jungles of the first Predator movie, the urban setting of the second Predator movie. Now you have sort of plains and forest. So it's a little bit different, and I appreciated the change. I also appreciated that element of having it be a period piece. I thought that was very unique. It opens up the door to a lot of possibilities. I saw online you could do, Predator versus, Predator lands in samurai Japan and faces some samurai. So I like that idea. It could all lead to a lot of fun. But overall, I thought this movie was really, really good. I think it stands solidly right in that sort of like that second or third ranking for the Predator films. The first one stands tall above the rest. I mean, you're going to have a hard time knocking that one out of first place for me. I like the second one. It's not as good as the first. It's a little bit more sort of classic 80s urban action cheesy. But so I probably like that one more than I like Prey. But Prey is really, really even with that in terms of quality, in terms of watchability, and in terms of rewatchability. So, and it's way, way above the more recent Predator sequels, and it's definitely way above the Alien Predator crossover movies. So it gets high marks from me. I liked it. I recommend it. That's it for me on this review of Prey here on Nerd Bomber vs. Movies. So keep an eye out. You can find us on Instagram at NerdBomberPod. You can find links to everything I do. You can find links to everything that my co-host, your friend Claude, does. You can find links to the show, and obviously you've already found us here on YouTube. So until the next review episode of Nerd Bomber vs. Movies, or until the next normal episode of Nerd Bomber vs. Movies, later.